Hi, and welcome back to the Tap and Tap Up podcast. I'm your host, Alex, and if you don't know why you're here, in this podcast, we tap into discussions around mental wellness, spirituality, and culture, and tap out of the patterns that no longer serve us. Amen. How are y'all doing this week? I am making it. I, for some reason, decided to go to bed after 3 a.m. the past 2 nights. Don't know why I did that to myself, but here we are, living in our choices. But I took a good shower today and try to get my mind right because yeah, the schedule is really off, but I'm here. Last week we did not have a full episode. Instead, I did a little life update. So that's honestly it was like 12 minutes long. If you want to go back and listen to it, but just kind of giving you an idea of where the podcast is at, where the podcast is going, how I'm doing, feeling about life and stuff. We also posted a trailer for the podcast. If you're a returning listener, sorry, then that doesn't really apply to you, but I just wanted to make a trailer for people who are new to the podcast. I want to get an idea of what we talk about. Yeah, so if you are interested, check those out. Moving on to the inbox this week. If you don't know what the inbox is where you can send me your questions, concerns, thoughts, opinions on the podcast or anything around the podcast. If you're sending in any advice questions, remember that I'm not a licensed professional, but I can tell you what I would do. So keep that in mind. You can either email heartofshema@gmail.com, which is in the description, or you can DM me on my personal page, just Alex Today, if you want to ask me a question. Usually around Wednesday, Thursday-ish, I post like a little poll on my Instagram story, so you can ask it there. So yeah, all the information is down below. All right, we do have one question this week, and someone has just asked me for words of encouragement, which I thought was really sweet. Hope you're doing well out there, whoever asked the question. But I actually do have something. It's so funny somebody asked that this week because I have a story. I didn't write it down this time, so hopefully the way I say it is the way that it's supposed to come out. But bear with me. So yesterday, I was with a friend. We were getting chatting, getting lunch together. But it wasn't lunch. It was like we were getting bagels. Anyway, so we're getting bagels at this bagel place, right? And it's really quiet. I go in there, I order my bagel. My friend orders her bagel, and then we wait for the bagels to be ready and the other stuff we ordered. And people were behind us. They ordered their stuff, right? And, probably the third person that ordered. So I was one, my friend was two, and this person was three. Number three got their order first, and I was like, all right, no problem. Like, his order might have, probably took a shorter time. And then when number four got their order, I was like, okay, something's up, So then my friend gets her order, and so everybody's fine but me. I don't get my order, and so I'm kind of waiting there, and you can feel when someone forgot about you, or someone forgot your order, or forgot to finish up your order. And so the feeling came on me very, very clearly. And so I'm the kind of person where I was kind of tired yesterday, so I didn't have the strength to be like, where's my bagel? Rah, rah, rah. So I was like just waiting on the side for them to realize, because I was just being patient, child. I really don't. I wasn't in a rush. Like, yeah, I want to talk to my friend, but I wasn't in a rush. It wasn't that bad. It was maybe max 10 minutes. And so the worker looks over and she's like, oh my gosh, why are you still here? And I was like, I didn't get my bagel. And then she's like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Like, do you want to pick something from the little fridge section? I was like, okay, sure. So I pick a little fruit pack or whatever. And so I'm waiting some more, and another girl orders her food, and she orders the same thing I get. I don't know if I even share this. And so she orders the thing that I also got, the type of bagel that I got. And so my bagel's ready, right? But it's in this it's in a bigger bag, and I was really confused. And so I acted that was mine, and she was like, yeah, this is yours. So I took it and looked inside, and it was two of the same order. So I think the worker because she probably was at the point where she was making the girl's bagel before mine. She remembered that I had a bagel too. And so I guess she put me in her bagel and gave them both to me and just made her a new bagel. And so in the end, I left with two bagels and the little fruit snack, the fruit pack thing from the fridge. And I swear to you, the second I left that place, like, it was like God just like was talking to me and was telling me, like, I was actually upset, just to be candid, because this happens a lot to me where I I want one thing and it's easy, it's accessible, and I want to get it. And then I don't get it. And then by the time I actually get it, I get more than I asked for, you know? And for those that believe in God, for those that want to talk about the universe, same stuff. But I feel like what I want to say is that, you know, you might not get what you want when you want it, but if it's yours, it's going to be yours. And I don't know if that's for somebody out there, but it's for me this week, because when I tell you this happens to me so much, I would go for something and I don't get it when I want to, but then it comes around because it was always meant for me. And it's just more added to it that I wouldn't have even wanted, you know, or didn't think I want. But honey, when I tell you the fruit pack hit that night, okay, I saved that thing. I saved that bagel, that extra bagel, and I had a good day yesterday. And yeah, I had to wait a little bit for the bagel I wanted, but in the end, I got more than I even wanted, more than I came for. And I think that's a word for me this week, honestly. And just for a more like life example, like last year I applied for this job and it was out of my comfort zone. It was like a supervisor position. I probably talked about this. I talked about this job actually with Esther 2 weeks ago in the tap out. So that's the same job I'm talking about, the job that I am in right now. So I applied for this job, more of a supervisor type position, and I ended up not getting it at the time. I got this like alternate position type thing, and so I was kind of put on hold basically. Don't know how that happened. When I was told I was a shoo-in, mind you. I don't want to get into it, but I was told I was a shoo-in, and obviously I was not because I didn't get it. So I'm kind of like on hold, like on call, in case the person that actually got the job declines it or something. So I moved on. I went ahead and I signed up to be a volunteer at do some research, and stuff like that. And I did that because I needed to refill my resume up. That's why I was applying to this job. And, you know, so I'm like, okay, now I have more time on my hands. Let me just apply to these other stuff. And I got them like that, you know, like, I mean, the day of me asking, I got a yes, you know, to volunteer at this research place. I think that's also when I started the blog, because I was like, okay, I have more time in my hands and I think I will. Let me start my blog. And so I started my blog. And so I'm like doing this stuff, thinking that, you know, I'm making the most out of my hand dealt to me, you know. And so probably 5 months later, I want to say, in the summer, I get a call, an email saying that, you know, the job is open again if I want it. And, you know, for a second I was like, hell no, I don't want this job no more. Y'all didn't want me when I wanted to be there. But, you know, I did my little pros and cons list and I was like, you know what? I actually do want this job still. And I don't think I can do all of this because I signed up for things that I wouldn't have signed up for had I got the job in the first place. So that's why I was worried. So I decided to trust the process and I prayed about it and I was like, you know what? Let me do this job. And here I am today, thriving. I'm doing the job and I'm doing the things I signed up for on the side. And that's obviously how this podcast started, because I had to start somewhere. And, you know, had I just gotten the job that first time I applied, I probably wouldn't have started other stuff, because I would have limited my potential and limited what I thought I could get done with the time that I have. But I know that I can make something out of nothing. Like I can make time work for me, you know? And so, yeah, same principle. Like, you know what's for yours. You know, I think when you do that inner work, like, you know what's for you, and that's going to be yours. It might not come when you want it, but it's going to be yours. And when things happen or when things shift, like, stay encouraged, because honestly, it's going to come back 2, 3-fold for you. And I am literally, I can say that from experience. So, yeah, it was really crazy how that happened to me yesterday, and it really made me reflect on my life, because I was like, this little story is like the story of my life, you know. So yeah, that's the question of the week. If you have questions you want to send in, comments, concerns, please send them, like I said, to heartofshema@gmail.com, or DM me. Um, yeah, with that, we have a guest this week. Yes. I really wanted a good, solid episode on journaling because I feel like it's a really important cornerstone of like the mental wellness industry. And I just kind of wanted to make some space on the podcast to really dig into journaling and its benefits and also like the heart of it, you know? So I have a really good friend named Kris who actually does content creation online revolving around journaling for women. And so I was like, great, I'm gonna call her up. And she said yes. So we're gonna take a quick break, and then when we get back, you will be hearing the conversation that I had with Kris. Okay, it is time for the tap in. This week I have a guest, a close friend of mine. She is the founder of Reawakening Love, which is a ministry helping young women to reawaken their confidence from shame via faith-based journaling and online content. She is also the owner of my favorite dog in the world, Max. Her name is Kris. Hi, Kris.
Hello. I was not expecting that intro, especially my dog.
Only the best for the best, okay? How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm okay. I'm better. I'm better now because I'm talking to you. If you guys didn't know, Kris is like one of my best friends. Someone I look up to, honestly. We met in college. Besties for the resties, you know, ride or die. All the words. And I really want to do an episode on journaling because it's kind of a cornerstone in like mental wellness, like self-care. We talk about meditation, we talk about yoga. Journaling is also kind of in that realm. So I figured why not bring in someone I know has experience, not only being an avid journaler, but also someone whose like work is geared towards teaching people how to journal and what it means to, you know, record your thoughts. So it was pretty perfect collaboration, if I could say so myself. So to start off, Kris, I was actually interested to know like how you got into journaling. Because funny enough, a few years ago we would go to church sometimes. I never told you this before ever. It's like off the
Oh
like
gosh.
new
Okay.
information. We go to church sometimes. Kris is like we like carpool together and we'd be in worship and
No, wait. Okay.
we'd be
It's
in
fine.
worship and I'm like, you know, vibing out to the songs. You know, I'm a very like experiential person. So I'm like, yes, vibing out. And then we'd be finished, you know, 23 minutes later, look on the side of me. And Kris is like, her book is full of notes. And I'm like, what did I miss? Like, I just thought the harmonies were nice. But Kris, like, whenever I look next to Kris at church, the book is full. Like, the pen is on and she is writing. And I'm like, wow, am I just like not getting anything out of these services? And it always stood out to me because for a second I would feel guilty. I'm like, should I be like retaining more? Because, you know, I talked to you months later and you could recall things a lot better than I could recall. If nothing like funny happened, I wouldn't be able to tell you, you know, what went on that day. But you always do a good job at like remembering things. And I think a big part of that is the way that you just transcribe what's going on like around you and in you. So yeah, what was journaling something that you always did as a child or is something that you kind of picked up later on?
Right. So I think at a young age, I remember that a lot of girls in my school, like in elementary and middle school, they had like diaries, right? But I never got on that trend.
Mm.
And it wasn't probably till it was maybe like 3 years ago that I started actively journaling. It was during a time that I was taking a gap year. So that was before we met and everything. But I was going through a very tough time emotionally and mentally. And I think I was just in a lost type of state because I was like, I'm not going to school right now. I'm facing like a death of a family friend. And, you know, this was very traumatic for me. And being placed in a position of taking care of children when I was just a child myself at 18 was very hard. And so I think that also, too, growing up, I come from a household and a culture where anything that is like wrong in life, you kind of just brush under the rug. We don't talk about it. We don't discuss it, especially in, I guess, like a Filipino community where people talk when it comes to certain things that go on in life. And so I remember one time my mom was like, "Do you need to go to therapy?" But the way she said it, like the tone of it was like not helpful. It was more like, it made me sound like I was a crazy person for needing therapy.
Yeah.
And so I think also too, I'm an only child. For I think an escape for me was just writing my feelings, because no one can read it. It was just for me. And I didn't have to filter anything. There was no limits to how much I could write. And so that was, I guess, like a coping mechanism for me, where people, some people work out, some people, they do art or whatever that is. I think for me, writing was a way for me to express feelings when talking about it wasn't, I won't say like allowed, but wasn't an open space in my household for me.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because I was listening to something recently, probably a podcast from I think Shan Boudrum was on it. If you guys know her, she's a sexologist, but she was talking about relationships and how in life we all need a mirror, and in that it's like something to reflect ourselves on. So for a lot of us, most of us, that's people. So like our partners, our friends, our parents, like we all need something or somebody to reflect our feelings and our thoughts from. And so it's interesting, we talk about how you grew up and not necessarily having the access to feel more comfortable, or like comfortable sharing those thoughts, but finding another way to reflect those thoughts back to yourself, to feel seen and feel heard, which is where journaling comes in. So I wonder if obviously you've been journaling for like 3 years on and off. Let's just talk about like the practicality of it. Are you like really, are you writing novels, or like how has your style like changed over the years of like how you journal, like your thoughts versus like something you're listening to, or
So I think in the very beginning, I was a very avid Pinterest fan when it comes to journaling, because I think I was like, in the very beginning, what do I write? And I think that's a very common question that people ask and just wonder in general. And so I think in the very beginning, I was like all for like different colored highlighters and pens and, doing cute designs and washi tape to make it like look pretty, right?
Yes.
That was like the mainstream thing that I would see on Pinterest. And I was like, let me put a banner and make it look like all cute and all that type of stuff. But then I got tired of that because I was like, I don't have time for this. And I think I just transitioned to just using a black pen and just writing in cursive and just writing out my feelings. I think as people, we change constantly. I don't think we're the same person that we were like a year ago or 2 years ago. And so I think also too, your journal style can also change in the same way. And so from going from one space of like making things pretty and then just, I guess, like chicken scratch all over of like random things, I think that just goes to show of like what season I'm in. And like I think this season I'm in right now, I've been more into poetry, which is very different of my own style from the past. And I think also too, journaling styles can be different in how much you journal, because I think sometimes we're like, well, I think in the past for me, I was like, I need a journal every single day. And then one season I'll be like, I have no motivation to journal at all. And I think that's also okay too, as another factor when it comes to your journaling style, that I don't think there should be a pressure to journal in a specific way at all, or a format that you see from other people, but just in the way that you prefer, because you're your own individual person, and how you express yourself may be different from another person.
Yeah, so I didn't send you this question because it came up as we were talking.
Oh no. Okay.
But something I think is touching on for me right now as you're talking is like this relationship that we have with like older versions of ourselves. Because like
Mm-hmm.
you're saying, like, and I love what you said about, you know, we as we grow up and we change and we evolve, like the way that we express ourselves and access, you know, mental wellness or that self-care is going to change as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I think part of why I struggle with journaling is because I think society has kind of trained us to always be like wanting to see ourselves bigger and better. You know, like we had a question last week about new levels, new devils, and all that stuff. And I think we have this culture of just always needing to be better people. And so in that, I can want to like forget who I was, you know, or like it doesn't matter because I'm here today. And I think even a harmful side effect of, you know, maybe a mindfulness teaching in a wrong way could be like, you know, is what only matters is today. What only matters is right now, when the thoughts you journaled about a month ago, a year ago, a decade ago are still a part of you, you know, like it's still it was you, you know, like that's who you were. And so I want to ask you, like, how do you feel about your relationship to older versions of yourself, and how do you feel like journaling
Mm.
has helped or like maybe hurt that? I'm just curious.
That's so interesting because a big thing that I always try to incorporate in journaling is writing the date.
Yes.
And so I have I have journals where it's from 2019 and whatever day that may be. It's really interesting for me sometimes to look back of like, what was I going through during this time of my life? What was I going through on the exact day that was like maybe like 2 years ago? And sometimes I look back, I'm like, wow, you were so crazy. Like, what were you doing in that situation? And sometimes I look back and I think I look back at a girl and I think that it's so easy for us to be like invalidating of our own feelings.
Mm,
And I think something that I've learned when it comes to journaling and looking back at past logs in my journals is that I never want to, I never want to look back at that girl and what she wrote and be like, your feelings don't matter, or
mm,
what you felt like wasn't right. Because in those moments, that girl felt those things and those things were real. So who am I, even though it's years later, to say that she didn't feel these things or these things weren't true when she has like paragraphs upon paragraphs of like her
yeah.
emotions.
Mm,
And so I think that journaling has been helpful in ways for me to see of the progress I've been throughout life from one situation to another, and you know, seeing the growth of like, wow, I've gone through hard stuff and I can make it. I can actually go through it and it's not the end of the world.
mm,
But also too, I think it's really interesting to see, it's like a little like movie but like
yes.
to yourself, which is kind of cool, of like
Yes.
your own life. And so I think it's a really interesting thing that people should possibly journal because of the ways that you could see the progress you've been through within like different situations and experiences. Because I think that it's just really cool. I don't
Mm.
know.
No, that was great. I love that. And I actually forgot I was gonna ask you this, but there's something about, you know, when we're talking about our relationship to ourselves and to the old versions of us and the ones that are coming, like, and you know, like we are really writing a story of our life, you know, like in our heads every day, you know.
Hmm.
And I think journaling is this like physical way that we're documenting the story that we're telling, you know. And so maybe this will bring in some spirituality into this, but I wonder, like, how important is it for you? How often do you think about like how you're telling your story to yourself? You know, like there's this prompt, not really relevant, but there's this thinking prompt that I know of where it's like, okay, when you think of your life, are you the main character? You know, are you the side character? Are you supporting
Mm,
actress? You
love
know,
that.
are you the extra? Are you craft services? You know, like there's a really cool thought experiment, because I think for a while I was like best supporting actress. You know, like
Mm,
I was not winning the Oscar for, you know, best actor, but when you asked us who's the best supporting actor, like it's me, you know, like I'm the best sidekick, I'm the best, you know, the best friend. And it took a long time for me to kind of rewrite that story in my head of like, okay, this is my life, you know, and people have ideas and dreams and visions for me. That's great. But at the end of the day, like I'm driving the boat, you know? So I guess maybe a personal question is like, um, how do you tell your story like to yourself, you know? Like, are you writing from a place of like, this is where I'm at, like you said, like this is valid, like what you
Mm-hmm.
feel is valid, or are you writing towards something greater than it currently is, if that makes sense?
So I think that whenever I write of my own experiences, I think that I write it from, interestingly enough, like I'm telling Kriss's story,
Mm-hmm.
right? Something that's just as a side note, I think that I also journal because I'm like, one day I do want to tell my children and my grandchildren of like all that I've been through.
Mm-hmm.
And it'd be just like really awesome for them to just read everything. And so it's like, well, I went through this day. But so I usually write of like, sometimes I will write like, God, I'm feeling this way. I will actually just be in a state of like, God, I faced this today. I don't understand. I'm kind of questioning this. And that's like also another alternative that I do where I just write a letter to myself, or I'll write a letter to God too.
Cool. So as someone who invests a lot of time into journaling and obviously the work you do with Reawakening Love, what challenges do you see most commonly come up for people, like with like barriers to wanting to journal or being consistent with journaling?
Mm-hmm. I think questions that I get are even before someone writes, even before someone journals.
Me.
And it's like questions like you asked, like, how do I stay consistent with it? Or what do I write? And oh, I just came up with an analogy that I had earlier. But so I like to think as your journal, it's so versatile in the ways of what you can write in it because it's yours. And there's no one to say, you can't write that. That's wrong. You have to use a specific pen. No one's saying that because there's no one to judge you on that. There's no rule book. There's nothing of that sort to tell you journaling in a specific way is wrong. And so I like to think of your journal as like, think of it as like ice cream, right? Let's say we have our base for the ice cream. We can vanilla or chocolate, whatever you choose or whatever flavor. And that's your journal, right? And then you also have different toppings that you could choose from, let's just say from like a little bar of like toppings. You have your M&Ms, you have your sprinkles, you have fruits if you're that type of person, or different type of like syrups that you can add, caramel or chocolate, you know, all these things you can include it in your journal. And they all go together, but they're not exactly the same. So, you know, M&Ms could be like me writing out my goals for the month. And then maybe, you know, Kit Kats can be like, how am I feeling today? Or even like chocolate syrup could be just like, for example, you know, what is something that what's a good thing that happened today? What's a low point of my day? Like, I don't think there's a specific thing that you have to be like, oh, I need to make sure I add this to my journal. And I think the ways that I teach other people are like, these are suggestions, you know, that you could include in journaling. You don't have to do them, but it's just a way for you to be like, maybe this is another journal prompt that I could use to express my feelings, or to even just express what I'm going through inside that I never thought of in a journal prompt like this. And so whatever your ice cream and whatever toppings that you like in it, especially like just within your journal, like it is so up to you. And I think that's the beauty of journaling, that there's no specific format and you can go about it however you want. And I think I want to go back to your comment in the very beginning of like how you felt guilty, right?
Yes.
During our church days of like, am I missing something? I think that comparison can also be a thing that that could be a hurtful thing too when it comes to journaling, or a con, because there could be comparison to other people, like, am I writing enough, or am I, should I write more, or should I be writing like in this type of style? Should I fill in the blank, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's a reality, and that's a thought too, of like being guilty for not doing a specific thing. And so, one, I want to validate you when it comes to when I was journaling some things. I just be journaling like my thoughts during a song. Sometimes I'll be writing lyrics. It's so much of like a freedom, and I think that's why I love journaling and I encourage it, because it is a freedom. It's like a release of things and a renewal of things within yourself. And that's the way that you can go about it in any way, shape, or form that you would like.
Wow, that was great. I love the ice cream analogy for a few reasons. One, like you said, it's like not one formula to follow, like it's whatever you want it to be. And like, personally for me, I have been trying to tell myself this month to like really start trying to like write again. Not that I have to, but I read so much about the benefits and the research about it, and I'm like, Alex, you're just gonna start and see if it sticks. Maybe, like you said, this comparison of like, if I don't write how Kris writes, it's not good journaling. That's not true. Like there's a way in which journaling can like work for me and fit the needs that I have. Personally for me, I dabbled in like audio journaling, which is literally just, I have like a little flash drive and I plug it in my computer and I press record on like my sound recorder on my laptop, and I just talk about my day or talk about the week, and I stop it and then I save the date and then I put it away. Never go back, listen to it. I have dreams one day when they make my documentary, they'll like pull these clips, and play it. But besides that purpose, I don't go back and listen to them, but I find that when I am consistent, it is helpful in recording my thoughts and getting it out of me, because I'm an overthinker, and like sometimes I can't go to bed if my mind's too busy, and so I just find it's helpful. But I do feel like writing would be even better, like just that physical transference of your thoughts, your emotions, your feelings, even your hopes and dreams. We talk about like manifesting and talk about those other things, like that's where these things come in too. But something else I love about the ice cream analogy is that it's for you, and it's not like when you create your ice cream the way you want it, someone else has to eat it, like you're creating this ice cream for yourself, for you to enjoy, for you to have and cherish. And I think that's something that I hadn't thought about enough before, was just it being a sacred practice, and by sacred, I mean, something personal to you, something exclusive to you that you don't share with anybody else. And I think it's important that we have things in life that are like that, like for me, when I play my video games, certain games I play are sacred to me. Like I don't have to tell somebody like, oh, I got this far in the game or I got that far in the game. Like certain games I play are sacred to me because it's just my journey with myself, and I think something a little bit more, mental wellness centered, like journaling, is something really cool if we want to pick something that can be a sacred tool or a sacred thing we have. I'm actually interested, as someone who, creates content online for journaling. How do you balance like journaling being sacred to your own personal journey, but also sharing that with other people?
That's a good question. I think that even before I put out content, I make sure, has this been beneficial in my own life? Because I think I never want to ever put out content of like, you should try this, when I've never tried it. That would be very hypocritical. And so I think also too, even before pouring out to other people, this is something that I've learned too, is that making sure, have I did a check-in within myself? Have I journaled myself to see how I'm doing? Because that's something I also encourage and try to teach other people, is making sure that you have a daily check-in within yourself, whether that's within the morning or during a break at school or during your lunch break at your job, or even at nighttime. It's like, even before just sharing stuff online, I think it's important to make sure, am I in the right headspace where have I like journaled to make sure that I'm okay before serving other people? Because I think that for me, I can get so caught up of like, oh, you should do this, or how can I help you in this area, and all that type of stuff. And I think another beneficial way journaling is crucial for other people is to make sure that you don't burn out, that you actually have like a release of the things that you go through on paper in order to be renewed before going out into the world and doing specific things in the mundane world.
Yeah, I love that. This has been great. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, your knowledge. Is there anything you'd like to leave the people for the tap in this week with journaling? Anything on your heart?
Yeah, I guess if you're still on the fence, still hesitant when it comes to journaling, or why should I do it, or what's the benefit to me? And I like to think about it like this. As a person, you go through so much within a day. You go through so many experiences, whether it's at your job, in school, within family, within friends, different sectors of your life that intersect together, right? Start like just looking at your life from morning until nighttime. How much have you gone through that was stressful, that was a lot, that was confusing, that was probably really joyous and really memorable. And all these things combine, and all these feelings are harbored inside, with a combination of like, wow, I have my own personal problems too in different areas, with another factor of, wow, I also have a lot of deep rooted trauma and past experiences that are so deeply embedded that I've just never reflected on, or never discussed, or never ever just expressed to anybody. All of this combined within somebody can be a lot. And for those who are like overthinkers, or those who it may be difficult to express yourselves, when you feel all of this, it could feel like a weight inside of you. And also too, like, just as another reference, it could be like a volcano that's slowly building of like so many emotions, and then something can happen, and then all these emotions at once can come out. I'm like, where did all this come from? So I think that journaling is another way to also do a lot of root digging when it comes to healing, or comes to understanding, or coming to closure with things, or just even writing memorable things in your life is also really a good thing to also remember. There are beautiful parts in life, but there are also messy parts in life. And so I think that journaling, I think two words I used earlier is that it's a release and it's a renewal. So it's a release of things that are going on inside that you could put to paper, and think of like all those things in your head that are just so cluttered. Like, I think of like a filing cabinet that is so messy, and like releasing these things and making sure that these files are organized, or whatever it is, it really is helpful to just have emotional release and a physical release. And I think that's something that's actually really beneficial to your brain and your body. But also then there's a renewal of mind of like, wow, I'm actually in a better state of mind right now. Or maybe I look at this situation differently, or maybe I look at life differently because I released this in some way. And think about it, if you do have a hard time expressing yourself, writing can also be a way to a conversation starter of things you never thought that you had to talk about or had to express to other people.
I mean, thank you for that. I just went in. I love this conversation. I feel like when we talk about journeying in our spirituality and our mental health, and needing to have like actionable things, like this is what we're talking about. Like this is something that's easy, relatively free. Like a little notebook.
Yeah.
You probably have a phone. With voice memos. Like there are ways that you can take action to like start that work of like release and renewal, like you said. Once again, thank you so much to Kris for coming on for the tap in. I'm keeping her around for the tap out, of course. So it's gonna take a quick break, and then we'll be right back with the tap out. Now it's time for the small business shout out. This episode was about journaling, and so naturally I wanted to pair it with related small business. And so this week we're talking about Be Rooted Co. That's BROOTED co.com. Same thing for the Instagram handle. They're an inclusive stationery and gifts brand. Their products are actually not available on Target, which is pretty awesome. And so if you go on their website or go to Target, they have so many cool designs of women of color and different inclusive imagery for their stationery. And I don't know if y'all know this, but I'm a stationery pig. And so I eat it up, especially now I'm trying to get back into journaling. I'm definitely going to be checking them out. They're Black owned and woman owned, which, you know, could not be better. So yes, I think, yeah, their tagline is take time to see yourself. And so I've been sold. I don't need much to spend a coin. So if you guys are interested, you can find their info in the bio. Yeah, please support small businesses. All right, we are back. It is time for the tap out. I asked Kris to bring something for me that she is trying to tap out of in this season. Kris, what did you bring for me today?
So, surprisingly enough, I'm trying to tap out of ordering takeout food.
Oh my God.
This month, it's been very much of a struggle. And, you know, it's so easy to just order out than to like cook and to plan. And that's something I really need to just let go of and tap out of.
That is so funny because we have talked about this extensively this
I
year.
know.
Because just for reference, I came to Kris one day this year and I was like, Kris, I just feel like you don't order any takeout. I just feel like you be home meal prepping every Sunday and I don't hear you, you know, eating out, eating unhealthy. Like, well, I'm here picking out. Like, please help a brother out, you know? And so I think you said you maybe order it at the time. You're ordering it maybe like
once a month.
You said once a month, and I was like, oh my God, like I'm eating my own food once a month. I'm exaggerating, but like 2 weeks can't go by without me ordering something from Uber Eats. Like if it hit 2 weeks, like I have to order food, you know, and it's usually before 2 weeks. Usually, I was doing pretty good last month, and then this past 2 weeks have not been great. I've been ordering out a lot, and I don't know how you feel about it, but as a concept, it's fine. It's really like just the money for me, you know, like it's really a wasteful, and I don't drive. So I really, you know, it'd be easier if you just drove and got the food, but it's so much money to like order food to your house, you know, and I just see the money like go out in flocks. So yeah, why do you want to stop? I mean, like slow it down. I'm just curious.
I think the factor is the money part, because I think that I've just really like allowed myself to splurge, and I think the thing that I try to trick myself into thinking is like, oh, you know, you should just, you know, treat yourself. Treat yourself, you know. But then, but listen, Alex, the thing is, that's a beautiful phrase, right? Because we do need to do that in life. But I can't be doing that every single week and be like, Kris, you need to treat yourself. Like, it's now becoming a continuous thing. And I'm like, Kris, you already did that like 3 times. Like, you can't do that anymore.
I will like trip like on a step and I'm like, Alex, you deserve something today. Like, you need to go and treat yourself because you almost fell. You know, like I will find any reason. Especially now, I'm about to graduate. I'm like, you deserve this, Alex. Like, it's April, you deserve this. So I honestly, that's also my tap out because I famously, you know, love to eat out. What's your favorite place to eat out? Favorite type of food?
So I've been really divulging into sushi because I think, so here's my thing, right? If I do takeout, I make sure I do takeout food that I know I can't make myself.
Yes. Yes.
Because if I get something from some place, I'm like, I could do this myself. Then it's like, then why did I order? Because I could look up on, you know, the Food Network or another website. And for the audience, there's an Asian restaurant near Alex that whenever I hang out with Alex or whenever I am in that close proximity, I have to get something. Like, one time we got like sushi burritos after going thrifting.
Yes. Ooh, I'm still thinking about those
And I
burritos.
was just like, I actually want to get another one. Like, I think also there's just a temptation when driving close to these places that I'm like, treat yourself.
Yeah.
That side of me that wants to just satisfy this craving.
Yeah, and it's the worst when I'm with somebody, because don't let Kris tell me she wants to eat something. I'm like, oh, well, let's go. Like, where you thinking? Like, I had no intention of buying those burritos that day, but you were like,
Really?
because I bought food. I was supposed to buy food that Sunday, the next day, and I was like gonna save my money, and then you were like, I'm thinking about and mind you, Kris didn't tell me, eat with me. Like we were parting ways, and she was like, I'm gonna get us some food near you, and I was like, cool, where are we going? Like, I'm gonna spend money because you're spending money. So I decided to tap out this week. Thank you so much, Kris, for coming on the show. Please talk about what you're doing, social media, talk about what you have coming up, just anything you want to plug. This is your time.
Ooh. Well, Alex, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to talk to you.
Mm-hmm.
So, social media wise, you can find me on Instagram. That's my main platform of communication and social media content, at Reawakening Love. Like Alex said, it's a ministry geared towards helping women reawaken their confidence from shame through faith-based journal prompts and through God's word. So catch me in those reels and different posts. When it comes to journal prompts, I also like to do reels for you guys when it comes to just physically showing you how to do specific things, like a tutorial. Yeah. So catch me on the gram and hit a little follow if you'd like to. Yes, very much appreciated.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Kris, for coming on the show, and I will talk to you later. Thank you again to Kris for coming on the podcast. It was so good. I really hope this was helpful for you guys. Just to lay some good groundwork, for getting into journaling. Let me know if you are an avid journaler or if you're new to it, took a break. I'd actually like to know. Personally, for me, I've tried it here and there, but I really want to really get into it more because I feel like it's going to be really helpful for me, especially being hopefully in a career path that involves being very people-oriented. It's good to have something safe and sacred, like we talked about, to kind of journal things I don't need to necessarily bother my friends with, and be able to kind of lay out what's on your mind and be able to address it in a more constructive way. So that's the episode. You can find Kris's info in the description. If you would like to support the podcast at the moment, the best way to do that is to share with your friends. If you have friends that are into mental wellness, spirituality, getting their life right, please let them know this podcast is out there. You can rate and review the podcast on Apple Podcasts, and that would help a lot as well. 5 stars, please. Write a cute review, and that also helps the algorithm kind of do its thing, My socials are at Just Alex Today on Instagram and Twitter. If you would like to submit a small business for consideration, you can send that to heartofshema@gmail.com. That is also where you can send the inbox questions if you have a long advice question or some kind of something going on. Or if you would like to DM me, that's also fine for the questions. You can find this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Anchor, all the places you find podcasts. That's it for the episode. Thank you guys for listening, and I'll see you next week.